During the past few months, various Patriot SAM systems were announced for Ukraine. Initially, one battery was pledged by the US, then another battery by Germany. Finally, Netherlands pledged to augment those with 2 extra launchers of their own, alongside some additional missiles. Just days ago, Germany said their Patriot arrived to Ukraine. So what will those 2 Patriot batteries do for Ukraine, especially considering Ukraine already has the ex-Soviet S-300 batteries, which are systems of roughly the same class? Are Patriots going to be that much better than the S-300? Let's find out. Recently, an article from New York Times suggested Ukraine will indeed be getting Patriot PAC-3 variant. While we don't know if the US battery is coming from the active duty force or from surplus stores, if indeed the Allies are sending PAC-3, it would suggest active use batteries are being withdrawn from US and German service. Germany had almost finished upgrading its entire Patriot force to PAC-3 standard by the end of 2022. While in all likelihood Ukraine will get PAC-3, this video will still explore both cases, Ukraine getting PAC-2 and Ukraine getting PAC-3 system. To compare the Patriot to S-300, we need to know what sort of S-300 models Ukraine had. Right after the end of the Cold War, Ukraine inherited some 40 S-300 and several S-300V batteries, though 8 S-300 and a few S-300V were lost in 2014, as Russia occupied Crimea. While the main role of the S-300 is interception of high-flying targets, it can also intercept various terrain-following cruise missiles at up to 35 kilometers away, when batteries' mast-mounted radars are erected. Against higher-flying targets, the limit is not radar horizon, but guidance and trajectory limitations. Thus, the max range is some 75 kilometers. Neither mentioned variant has a potent anti-ballistic missile capability, as the maximum speed of the target they can engage is 1200 meters per second, so the Russian Iskander-M missile is too fast for them. The S-300V system is totally different though. It can be used against Iskander ballistic missiles, as it was originally designed to deal with US Pershing II missiles during the Cold War. But the problem lies in the fact that 30 years have passed since Ukraine got all those systems. Some of those may have simply been written off, perhaps cannibalized to maintain other remaining batteries, and the war has been going on for a year now. It is likely that some batteries have been destroyed. Indeed, Oryx Photo Archive lists at least 10 surveillance and 9 fire control radars as destroyed or damaged, alongside 47 launchers. New York Times article shows US European Command assessment of 25 S-300P batteries being operational at the end of February, so 7 to 9 S-300 batteries lost seem plausible. Crucially, missile supplies aren't infinite. While Russia can produce new missiles for the S-300, Ukraine can't just reverse engineer those and produce more. Both the original production runs for S-300 missiles in the Soviet Union and Patriot in the US had some 10 to 12 missiles made per every launcher, so it's possible Ukraine had roughly 2,800 missiles. That may seem like a lot, but consider this. Some may have been lost in Russian strikes. Sometimes 2 missiles are expended per target, and many missiles tend to miss or malfunction, especially decades-old missiles. Also, the war has been going on for a year now, with Ukraine claiming Russia used over 3,500 missiles. At the same time, Ukraine claimed that in most cases it intercepted well over 50% of those missiles. So it's very likely stockpiles of S-300 missiles are running low by now, as the aforementioned New York Times piece suggested. Ukraine may be down to fewer than 100 S-300 missiles by now. As the Russian Air Force seems quite risk-averse and still isn't flying deep inside Ukraine with its planes, the biggest role of either the S-300 or the Patriot is still going to be missile interception, for the time being. The S-300 PT and PS batteries usually work as part of regiments, where the regiment usually has 2 or 3 subordinate batteries. The higher echelon command unit uses a large acquisition radar. In Ukraine, 2 types of radars are used, the more modern Big Bird and the older Tin Shield. Those radars provide 360-degree situational awareness, but can't monitor low-flying targets. Another issue is that due to older technology, that the command unit shares target coordinates only with its subordinated fire batteries. The command can't share the entire radar image. So if the long-range surveillance radar is unavailable, the missile battery has good situational awareness only if using the clamshell radar, and only for low-altitude nearby targets. That radar is usually mounted on a mast and is not very mobile. The flap-lid fire control and missile guidance radar that each battery has very slow target search capability, even when performing just one sector or one quadrant search. It's more of a backup mode for the said radar. The radar itself uses a passive electronically scanned array. When set up, it can monitor only a 105-degree wide arc. It can direct up to 12 missiles at one time, targeting up to 6 separate targets. Curiously, it's not possible to assign 2 target channels on a single target, meaning directing 4 missiles per single target is not possible. S-300 is able to shoot down anti-radiation missiles, like HARM. Indeed, one target channel is usually reserved for such targets. Of course, that says nothing of its effectiveness against such modern missiles. Let's compare all that to Patriot, which even in its oldest variant is a slightly newer system. While the first S-300 PT entered service in 1978, the first Patriot deployed in 1981. A single Patriot battery doesn't have 360-degree situational awareness, but it was designed around robust interconnection of several batteries within a Patriot battalion. A Patriot battalion can deploy up to 6 batteries, though in case of Ukraine, it's either going to be just 2 in a battalion for now, or the batteries are going to operate independently one from the other. Though if the latter is the case, that almost certainly points to more modern PAC-3 systems, whose more modern radars are somewhat more self-sufficient. Each battery can operate up to 8 launchers, though 4 or 6 are more common. S-300 batteries usually have more launchers, though while each S-300 missile battery can support up to 12 launchers, usually 8 launchers are deployed per battery. But back to Patriot. The older radar associated with PAC-2 system is the AN-MPQ-53, while the newer PAC-3 uses the MPQ-65. They both use passively scanned arrays, like the Russian system. While outside radars can provide Patriot units with target coordinates, such radars aren't inherent to Patriot units, unlike the surveillance radars of the S-300 units. That's because Patriot radar is able to provide target acquisition and targeting tracking data at the same time. The radar itself can be rotated within a 260-degree arc, but once set up, it scans only a 110-degree arc. Patriot batteries, as said, shouldn't really work alone. Radars from various batteries share their data with the battalion. The battalion-level command is key there, and the batteries themselves can even be remotely controlled. Battalion command can even override battery command, which can help focus their firepower. Patriot unit can receive target data not only from third-party radar, but even from E3 AWACS, using those as early warning platforms. As long as the Patriot fire control radar has line of sight to the target, such targets can be engaged. The Patriot PAC-2 generation missiles, like the S-300 missiles Ukraine relies on, use track via missile guidance. One battery can direct 16 missiles to up to 8 targets. That's more missiles directed in the mid-course phase than the S-300P, but in the terminal phase of an interception, in the last 10 seconds or so, only 3 missiles can be directed at the same time. Patriot missiles are launched from slanted launchers, directed at a specific quadrant. That makes them less versatile than S-300's vertically launched missiles. Patriot launchers need to be repositioned against threats coming from other quadrants. US Patriot battery components are trailer-based, while the German battery comes on trucks, making it somewhat more mobile. Though still the Patriot needs more time to set up, usually between half an hour to an hour. Once deployed to a new location, Patriot's radar can scan the surroundings and create a digital map, which is then used to help distinguish targets from the background clutter, which helps against low-flying targets. Though due to no mast-mounted radar, Patriot's reach against low-flying targets is still limited to some 20 or so kilometers. S-300 PT variant is older and its components are placed on truck trailers. The PS variant comes on high-mobility trucks and is designed to relocate quickly. In theory, if only flap-lid radar is used, such a battery can deploy in just 5 minutes. Communication with the high unit command and its surveillance radar is done via data link. Perhaps it's worth to point out again that S-300P variants can't defend themselves against ballistic missiles. Though if supplied with surveillance radar data, multiple S-300 batteries can even defend from multiple directions. But due to fairly short reach of the system, coverage of most of Ukraine is not possible. S-300 batteries are likely used to protect most important facilities against cruise missiles. And perhaps a small number of mobile batteries are used to randomly patrol behind the front lines, where enemy ground strike aircraft are more numerous. Unlike the Ukrainian S-300 models, which didn't really see any modifications since their Soviet days, the Patriots sent to Ukraine are either 1990s PAC-2 variants, the early 2002 PAC-3 variants, or even if the US sent one of their active-duty batteries, the very latest modification sporting radar tech just several years old. It also means the Patriot batteries have a higher degree of automation. Soviet-era S-300 systems that Ukraine has have human operators more involved in the tracking and interception process, which, while it could have its upsides if the crew is highly skilled, in practice it means S-300 have less efficient and belated interceptions. PAC-2 batteries, if using the GEM update from the 1995 onward, could even try to defend against Russian Iskander ballistic missiles, as the max speed limit of their targets was increased to 3,000 meters per second. That's well within Iskander's envelope. But since Iskander isn't a simple trajectory missile, but it can maneuver and dispense various decoys, it's still far from assured that a single Patriot missile can intercept an Iskander. PAC-3 associated missiles may be an option for Ukraine, if the batteries come with the MPQ-65 radars. Those missiles are smaller, but much newer. They use active radar homing instead of track via missile method. The reach is shorter compared to PAC-2 missiles, but due to their great initial acceleration, greater maneuverability and better guidance, they are more potent against ballistic missiles, and could likely be fairly successful even against Iskanders. However, their small size means they don't have as much rocket fuel, so their reach against planes is shorter, perhaps not even reaching that of Ukrainian S-300 missiles. While late PAC-2 model launchers could be placed 10 kilometers away from the radar, PAC-3 increased that to 30 kilometers. That's pretty significant, as it means a single battery can still cover a fairly large area, despite the missiles themselves having a short reach. While the PAC-3 radars can support the even newer MSE missile, it's not known if Ukraine will get those. Said missiles are still fairly new, they've been produced in fairly small numbers and are extremely expensive. But even without those, if Ukraine got a battery from active-duty US unit, it's likely sporting the newest MPQ-65A radar with an advanced electronically scanned array, which offers improved range resolution and coverage sector. PAC-3 generation launcher trailers can mix and match older and newer missiles, 4 PAC-2 or 16 PAC-3 or 12 MSE missiles. Knowing all said so far, Patriots are likely going to protect the most important facilities and areas, ones that Russia might want to attack with their expensive Iskander ballistic missiles. Areas around Kiev and here between Kryvyi Rih, Dnipro and Zaporizhia are two likely candidates. But given there are just 2 such batteries promised so far, it's likely other important areas in Ukraine will still be fairly unprotected, not just because Iskanders could reach them, but because the overall S-300 missile supply is likely low. So the fact that S-300 can deal with low-flying cruise missiles won't mean much if there aren't always enough missiles for the said job. Due to limited sector coverage of the Patriot, Patriot's protection may also be lacking, as cruise missiles which can follow complex waypoints and circle around targets may evade it, which sort of suggests that Ukraine might even couple an S-300 battery or some other system with a Patriot in the same area, to try to gain protection both against cruise missiles and ballistic missiles. The latter are much more likely to come from fairly predictable directions due to their flight trajectory limitations. If placed near Ukraine's western borders, a Patriot battery might even enjoy timely early warnings from NATO's AWACS planes, alerting the battery enough to rotate the radar towards the target. The Patriot thus has the potential to be a better system in Ukraine, but currently it's limited by a low number of batteries pledged and low number of third-party radars. Ideally, Ukraine should also get various early warning and low-altitude radars, like the US TPS-77 and/or Swedish Giraffe. Some radars similar to those have been delivered to Ukraine, but far more would be needed. Out of 60 to 70 radars delivered so far, most are for counter-artillery role. Only 7 are for air surveillance, with most being the fairly short-range Sentinel radar. Those delivered so far are likely working in concert with other SAM systems delivered to Ukraine, like the German Iris-T and NASAMS. Patriot is also better at long-range anti-aircraft engagements due to its newer technology, compared to Soviet-era S-300 systems. It may keep the Russian force away from trying to perform bombing runs deeper inside Ukraine, which is a hard to quantify but potentially crucial mission. Otherwise, if no Patriots and other systems were sent, and when Ukraine runs out of S-300 missiles, there would be nothing stopping the Russian Air Force to do high-altitude bomb runs and slowly but surely whittle down Ukraine's facilities and other defenses. Even if Ukraine is getting the older PAC-2 variant, which frankly now seems less likely, as the most pressing need now is defense against missile attacks, older S-300 systems compare worse to it when a single battery versus battery comparison is made. But as a part of the larger network, the PAC-2 and even PAC-3 to an extent still have their deficiencies, mostly because the larger support radar network for those Patriots does not yet exist. Without a well-developed radar network supplied with new radars in case of war attrition, no long-range SAM system is going to reach its full potential. The 2 batteries promised are forming a foundation for the future, and it's very likely that we'll see more SAMs pledged to Ukraine during this year, as 300 batteries run out of missiles completely. Even then though, their radars will still sometimes be useful, used to patch holes in the aforementioned radar network. Anyway, thanks for watching. On another note, we were wondering which other YouTube channels do you like to watch? We're interested in hearing about our fans' interests, so feel free to comment on those. Until next week, salutations!